Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy, your weekly video game news podcast, broadcasting live Fridays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. It's Friday, July 13th.
Ooh.
I'm your host, Lex, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Booge.
and we got all sorts of stories to talk about this week, including stocks for Nintendo, stocks for Sony, what is Nathan Fillion hiding?
No, that's Sly Goose.
Nindies, followed by Overwatch League making it big, and some other things. Then Xbox gets modded, followed by our last story, Baldur's Gate dev doing some cool non-digital stuff. Gonna follow that all up with games that just came out and games that are about to come out. I missed one in there somewhere, but I don't care.
It was the PUBG story.
Oh, that one. That's actually probably the most important story we're doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say this week, not a lot of bombshell news. It's just like a lot of little things, some semi-interesting things.
Yeah, and the weird thing was I found a lot of little things. I had to cut down significantly on all the little things that I was going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start by talking about the stock market. Does it make sense? The answer is no.
Never.
Never has, never will. Since Nintendo, what's behind Nintendo's falling stock price? Now, I should preface this story by saying that their stock price is actually back up as of today, but over the past several months, it has mostly been down. In fact, they have lost almost all of the gains that they made from the launch of the Switch.
That's insane.
Yeah, that makes zero sense considering the Switch has done extremely well.
Right? Yeah.
So, since Nintendo has just had its best 12 months in around a decade, both in commercial and creative terms, you just knew the other shoe was bound to drop sooner or later. Nintendo's fans and well-wishers never get this kind of a run of luck without interruption, and right enough, over the past few weeks, the company's stock has taken a nosedive, repeatedly leveling off only to plummet again as investors seemingly lose confidence in the platform holder's plans and its ability to meet its sales targets.
Mamma mia.
So, this is a great example of investors being dumb idiots, and partly an example of Nintendo deciding to, I don't know, set its expectations too high, set too lofty a goal for itself.
Yeah.
And so this comes on the heels of E3. Now, you'd think, as this article points out, because this article written by Mr. Rob Fahey,
I'm guessing Fahey.
Fago. Rob Fago. Rob is down to clown.
Famous Hatchet Squad member, Rob Fago.
For some reason, his picture isn't him in makeup, but I'm sure that's because it was taken on a weekday. Once you get into the weekend, Rob is all about it.
Oh, yeah. He's Black Lotus and all that shit.
That clown life.
Yep.
So,
Juggalo life.
the most of this article is Rob talking, kind of speculating over what the reason could be, and it kind of gets a little long-winded, I will say, is my only issue with this article.
It's a big old piece of writing, yeah.
But one of the things that he talks about is he says, okay, so there was E3 happened, and Nintendo pretty much just showed off Super Smash. Technically, they showed off a couple other things, but nobody remembers or cares about them because they showed off Super Smash for like half an hour of their 45-minute conference.
Yeah, they didn't announce anything big, really.
Yeah. So, because of that, he was saying, okay, so maybe it would make sense if investors were saying, okay, you had a small E3 showing, so that's why we're losing confidence. You didn't talk about a lot of big games, you just talked about one big game. And that would make sense, except if you look at the graph of their stocks, they were going down prior to E3, and E3 didn't make them spike down lower. It actually, the same trend just continued, completely oblivious to any of the things that were said at E3.
Yeah.
So it seems like investors weren't even paying attention to that. And then, and Nintendo actually, in a desperate bid for damage control, have come out in the past week saying, hey, guys, we haven't actually announced our entire lineup. We got more stuff to talk about. Don't be skittish with us.
Please.
Please. And it's sad that they are doing that because they shouldn't need to. Because their console is still selling extremely well. Their games are still selling extremely well. And they haven't had any dud game releases. Like, all of the main big titles that have come out on Switch have done great and been very well reviewed. So there is really zero reason for this. The only thing that, and this is what he suspects it might be, there are probably a number of factors in play here. There's no doubt that some investors are feeling uncertain about the performance of the Switch over the next few months. So the projected performance, not what has happened already, especially as it relates to Nintendo's very ambitious 20 million sales target for the year. I suspect that much of that concern comes from foreign investors who are typically more flighty than Japan's institutional investors. Okay, so that I think might be the most reasonable factor here, is that Nintendo said, "Yo, by the end of this year, we gonna sell 20 mil."
Yeah, I remember we reported on that like a couple months ago, and at the time I was like, "Really? Jesus Christ!"
Yeah,
like, you guys are doing well, but
are you doing that well? Yeah. So that is one of those things where, that might be an overestimation. Although we still really don't know what the holiday season is going to bring, because there's a good argument to be made that the holiday season is going to be great for the Switch.
Usually, I mean, it classically is for hardware.
Yeah. Always. So and like with Super Smash Ultimate coming out.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they do like a. How long has the Switch been out for now? A couple of years.
It came out last year in March.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, especially regarding all this stuff, if we might see a price drop or a certain kind of bundles coming out for the Switch.
Yeah, they do a Super Smash bundle for the holiday. Yeah. Dang, boy, they'll do so well. Do some Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee bundles for the holiday. Oof. So yeah, that's the thing. You've got Super Smash coming out. You got their next big Pokemon title coming out.
Right.
In a semi-related story to that isn't in our rundown because it was just a smaller story and I decided to cut it, but I'll mention it now. Pokemon Go has reached an accumulated, I don't want to say sales because it's a free game, but the amount of money that they've made off of it has reached $1.8 billion.
Yikes.
So it's just like, and as we reported on last episode, people are getting way back into Pokemon Go. So just everyone is super primed for Pokemon on the Switch. And considering all of that, Pokemon on the Switch is probably going to sell like freaking nuts. So
yeah, absolutely.
The fact that we're going to get that 1-2 punch of Pokemon and Smash Brothers come the fall, I think that those 20 million sales numbers may not actually be crazy. I can totally see that happening. It's kind of a long shot, but I feel like it could totally happen. So the fact, again, that investors are just like, whoa, 20 million, that seems crazy. We don't know if that's reasonable. Let's back out. Let's not invest in Nintendo. To them, I say, no, you're idiots. There's actually a very good chance that you will make your money on this. Why are you backing out now? So
it makes me wonder how much their investors do look into this stuff in like granular detail. Like,
that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like they don't. I always, to illustrate that point, I always like to point back to the story that we did when Pokemon Go came out, and Nintendo's stock price spiked, but Niantic's stock price did not, because people didn't realize Niantic were the ones that made the game.
Yeah.
So that
you didn't look into this at all?
Yeah, so that's the thing that makes me think, okay, investors are just idiots. These are just middle-aged white men who don't understand video games.
But they see that there's a lot of money tied to it.
Yeah, but they see there's money tied to it, so they invest, but they don't actually understand what's going on with the company. And it disappoints me, but hey, you know what? It's a great opportunity to invest in Nintendo, because now their stock is cheaper.
Yes, exactly.
For people who know what they're doing, like me. I need to invest in Nintendo, everyone.
Yeah, well, you can only invest in Nintendo of America.
Then I just have to hang out with Reggie. I don't want to just hang out with Reggie. want the
Yeah.
rest of them.
Well, yeah, where I want Miyamoto. Yeah, you have to be a Japanese citizen to invest in the Tokyo stock market. Yeah, it's been interesting because I invest lightly in exchange traded funds, which are basically funds that are like built out of a bunch of other separate company funds. You put money into it, and people trade it for you, and you get small dividends back. And I have one package that is all game related, video game related, and I put a bunch of money into it before E3 because I'm like, this is sure to spike with all these announcements. People are going to get really excited. And directly after E3, and this does not, I don't think Nintendo's actually in this, but it's like Activision Blizzard is part of it, Capcom, Tencent, a bunch of other companies, individual stocks. And put a bunch of money into it before E3, and it fucking bombed. Went straight to the fucking bottom, and I pulled out all my money. I'm like, what the fuck? So yes, something weird is happening with general investors in video games, I think, recently. It could just be we're in a very conservative climate, both in economically and politically. And a lot of people are maybe not looking to invest outside of... A lot of Western investors aren't looking to invest outside of the West right now because of, trade wars and things like that. And, pulling out of long-standing international agreements and stuff like that. But this isn't a politics show, even though this kind of intersects when it comes to stocks. Yeah, I think it could just be that, and it's a mix of that and people not reading in closely to these companies. Yeah, because if you just look at Nintendo from the outside without really digging into it, it is kind of a weird company to try to parse whether they're doing well or not, because they go about things so strangely. And I think video games are kind of a strange, nebulous market to get into in the first place.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that if you're a Joe Schmo investor, I understand how Nintendo is complicated for you. Yeah. But I kind of assume that if you're someone who's interested in investing in video games, like, about video games, right?
Yeah, well, I figure the people that don't know about this shit are the same kind of people that invest in, like, movie studios and shit like that, like general entertainment investment. I'm guessing. And you look at Nintendo, and I mean they've been around as a company since the 1800s, but they've been around as a video game company since like the late 70s or something like that. And they're totally up and down. Like they're a total. If you look at their history, we just had the Wii U, which was crippled them horribly. And I think that maybe investors, when they're looking at the long run for something like Nintendo, they might get a little skittish. They're like, yeah, the Switch is doing okay now, but who knows next week, what's going to happen here.
The Wii U actually reminds me, there was another really short story that I just thought was funny from this week, where the director of the Yakuza games was asked about whether he wanted to port anything to the Switch or make anything for the Switch, and his quote was, our Wii U title didn't do very well, so I don't think the Switch is a good idea. And I'm like, do you have you looked at sales? Like, do you understand what's going on in the world?
Yeah.
Like to be like, oh well, the Wii U, the Switch must be just like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that don't misjudge the naivete of people inside the industry too, because people usually have their heads down on things. They're not paying attention to the wider scope of things. They pop their heads up every once in a while and be like, Battle Royale? Fuck, we got to make $1 million. Let's make one, and they don't really pay attention to these kind of things. So yeah, it's strange. I wonder if there is some weird other undercurrents that are pushing Nintendo stocks down, or it is just investor confusion.
Well,
I think they'll be fine because they still have their war chest full of money.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Nintendo's going to be fine. Their sales are crazy good. It's just a shame that investors can't recognize that they're doing so well. But speaking of stocks, we have another stock market story about other console competition for Nintendo.
Yes, Sony, the PlayStation. This is from Push Square by Sammy Baker. Sony completes turnaround with 10-year stock high. So apparently people are maybe the people that are not investing in Nintendo or investing in Sony. Kaz Hirai will probably be remembered by most for his goofy E3 presentations. They were great, by the way.
Yeah.
I would not say goofy. They were wonderful. But in truth, the ex-Sony CEO proved his business credentials by transforming the encumbered organization back into a global juggernaut. A new article from The Hollywood Reporter reveals that the conglomerate stocks have hit a 10-year high this week, cementing the firm's status as the most valuable Japanese electronics maker for the first time in over a decade. The company's overall market value as of Tuesday was an estimated $65 billion, pushing it above industrial equipment manufacturers Keyence, who I've never heard of. Sony's nearest competitors like Sharp, Panasonic, and Toshiba have all been hit in recent years by changes in the global marketplace, but the PlayStation maker has been the company's quickest to adapt. Fascinatingly, it's the entertainment segment of the company that have helped propel it back to profitability, with video games and music playing a big role. The firm also makes a lot of money from its financial services domestically, and of course, it continues to peddle televisions, cameras, and other electronics, although it has a much more focused product portfolio these days. Yeah, so they are back on top, and I think it says fascinatingly it's the entertainment segments, but I believe that's been the case for a long time. I'm pretty sure that the PlayStation division has been like holding up the rest of Sony for a while now, like since PlayStation 2. So good for them, I guess, to not be worrying about their financials as much as maybe Nintendo is.
Oh, hey, speaking of PS2, just reminded me, this is totally off topic, but I just want to mention it because I felt so happy. I don't know where these came from. I don't know who they belong to. They're mine now. But we were doing a tag sale at my house the other day, and I had been like, we had grabbed a bunch of our old DVDs to put out, and among them were 3 PlayStation 2 games that I definitely did not buy, and I have no idea where they came from, but they include Rogue Galaxy and Dragon Quest VIII. And I'm like, these games freaking rock, and I just picked them up like out of the DVD pile. I'm like, yes, I'm keeping these, but I don't. But so now I have more really good PS2 games. I don't know where they came from. They were like somewhere shoved in the back of our DVD shelf.
Huh. Maybe borrowed from a friend decades ago.
Maybe, yeah. That's the thing. No one had like dug through that shelf in like years, so they had been sitting there a long time. But I'm like, I don't know where these came from. I don't remember ever seeing these in the house before. But
now they're yours.
So now they're mine. It's great.
Do you have a PlayStation 2 that works?
Oh yeah, I actually had 2 PlayStation 2s that worked, and I sold one at the tag sale because I'm like, I don't need 2. Like, why do I need 2?
Yeah.
But
I miss my PS2. Mine broke like well into its life cycle. What a great fucking console it was. Rogue Galaxy is a cool game too.
Oh. But anyway, back to topic. Sony's great stock prices. It's funny that this story's coming out this week because, again, another small story that happened this week. I'm full of these.
Full of them. You're full of it.
Was that apparently the Nintendo Switch is now outselling the PlayStation 4.
It really?
Yeah, I'd read something about that. A lot of people are saying, or it's like on schedule too, like the way the numbers are going. And some people are saying like, wow, this is crazy. But then other people are quick to point out like, hey, the PS4 is like pretty late in its life cycle.
Yes.
So that's totally not like that crazy a thing. And it's not, but it's just funny that Nintendo stocks can't get a break even though they are outselling Sony, whose stocks are going through the roof.
Right, totally. Yeah, and this is one of those things where it's like a lot of people have been bashing on Sony recently because of the crossplay fiasco.
Yeah, that's another thing. They've gotten a ton of bad press lately.
They have. They've gotten a ton of bad press. But
their E3 presentation was like
weird,
like a spaghetti drop fest.
Yeah, they showed a lot of cool stuff, but it was in a very weird way. But yeah, I think that goes to further prove the confused investor kind of theory, where they don't like their investors and the executives behind Sony. They don't care about that controversy. They're in the back room counting money. You know, like they don't care that people can't play Fortnite or across platforms, or that you still can't change your PSN name or whatever. They they don't read into that stuff, and they're just the way that they don't read into the little successes that have built up around Nintendo over the past couple of years. So it may just be a wider epidemic of investor ignorance that leads to these things happening.
All right, so let's gosh, we're 20 minutes in and we've done 2 stories. Fantastic.
Yeah, this one's kind of short.
What is Nathan Fillion hiding from us?
What is Nathan? He's so sneaky. Firefly's Nathan Fillion. This is from Digital Spy. Firefly's Nathan Fillion teases Uncharted announcement. Nathan Fillion has been teasing fans on Instagram that he may have an announcement related to Uncharted coming their way on Thursday, July 12th. The actor posted a photo of the rapper Drake with the caption, Sic Parvis Magna, 7/16/18. To translate, Nathan Drake is the name of the protagonist at Uncharted, while Sic Parvis Magna is a Latin phrase meaning from small beginnings, great things come, which Drake has inscribed on his ring in the game series. So, and then also he posted a picture of maps and magnifying glasses, the kind of items a treasure. Okay, stop editorializing, Digital Spy. With the same caption. He's been long in talks to a lot of people. Just always ask him, they're like, hey, you should play Nathan Drake, you should play Nathan Drake, you should play Nathan Drake. Because he kind of already did in Firefly, and so it kind of would be a fit, even though he's getting a bit older nowadays. So it'd be kind of weird, but I can see it. The thing that I realized after reading this was that date is going to land right in the middle of San Diego Comic-Con. So I'm guessing that I think it could be a couple different things. I think it could be... I doubt that it's an announcement that he's going to be playing Nathan Drake in the movie. Because they've been talking about this goddamn Uncharted movie for a long time. Apparently it is actually in production. They have Mr. Spider-Man, young Spider-Man, as young Nathan Drake. I forgot his name.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. Apparently they have him slated as a younger Nathan Drake. So maybe Nathan Fillion could play the older Nathan Drake. Who knows? That seems unlikely to me. My thought is maybe Nathan Fillion's going to be playing a... maybe they made like a short live action thing, and he plays Nathan Drake in it or something like that. Yeah. Or maybe he's, I don't know, doing something, but I don't know. What do you think? I don't think it's going to be like, yeah, I'm Nathan Drake in a full-fledged Hollywood movie.
Well, there's a couple factors to this. I could totally see them saying he's Nathan Drake in a full-fledged Hollywood movie. I can totally see that happening. That being said, when that movie comes out, it's going to be horrible.
Probably.
Because no one's ever made a good video game movie. So
true.
It's
Even
not...
if it is being written by the original... no, it's not. It's being written by someone from Naughty Dog. I can't remember.
And, Michael Fassbender, fantastic actor, didn't save Assassin's Creed.
Nope.
So I could totally see this movie being announced. I could see it coming out. I can see it making no money and being forgotten very quickly. It's sad to me, though, because... there was a story this week about, not video game related, about how Disney is pushing back production of the Indiana Jones movie because Spielberg wants to make another Indiana Jones movie still starring Harrison Ford, which is madness.
Jesus Christ.
It's madness.
He's 90 years old.
Yeah. He's it's crazy. So, but it's being pushed back to 2021 or 2022 or something. Production of it. Harrison Ford will probably be dead by then. But but it's sad because I'm like, okay, I would really love it if we had a new Indiana Jones franchise style movie. We had that in the late 90s with the Mummy movies, although those petered out very quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one.
Yeah. I mean, I 2 is a guilty pleasure for me, but I'm not going to pretend it's actually a particularly good movie. But I think 1 holds up pretty well. Sure. Then we had in the 2000s we had those abominable National Treasure movies.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So
I've not seen those. But,
I just want a good Indiana Jones successor.
We had a Tomb Raider movie. What's her face played a Tomb Raider?
Well, we've had a bunch of Tomb Raider movies, and the Angelina Jolie ones weren't good. Apparently, the new one is not terrible, but didn't do well at the box office, so we'll never hear about it again. I want a good successor to Indiana Jones, And I feel like Uncharted could be that, if they did it well enough. So, but I just, like, video game movies don't, like, they're not well made. They're never well made.
They're not generally not. The only one that cut close was the Silent Hill movie, and that had some serious problems.
It was funny. I saw some reporting on the story that we did last time about the Halo TV series. Yeah. And the person who was reporting on it pointed out all of the other video game, movie, and TV show projects that never happened.
Yeah.
And one of them was Uncharted. And they're just like, yeah, so apparently there's a Halo series they're making. Sure there is.
Sure there is, yeah. No, actually, no, I take what I said back. The only good video game movie is not a movie, and it's not live action, and it's the Castlevania series on Netflix.
Yeah. Ooh.
They actually pulled that out. It's not perfect by any means, but they actually made it cool.
Yes. All they had to do was just change... Was not go the Hollywood route, was go the Netflix route, and they could do it. So, I could totally see that. But they should, I don't know. They should announce an Uncharted movie that Netflix is producing.
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
I can see that happening. I can totally. Or like a Netflix series. Yeah. Do you know what they should do, though? And I'm just looking at Tom Holland now, because the thing is, when the last Indiana Jones movie came out, and I agree with you, I like Indiana Jones movies fine, but Harrison Ford is getting old, and that last one was bad.
Well, that's the thing. He was too old in Crystal Skull, and now he's significantly older.
Sure. That movie was dumb for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons.
But the thing that sucked is that they now have Shia LaBeouf in there in the spot to take up the Indiana Jones mantle. But he's like a crazy art person now. So you need someone. You need someone new, I
From
think.
what I have heard, Shia LaBeouf is just no longer attached to that franchise.
It makes sense. Yeah. Kind of detached from the world.
Yeah, well, there's that, but I think it's because since Crystal Skull didn't do as well, they were like, it didn't do as well, so introducing Shia didn't work, plus Shia is super weird, so it seems like Spielberg's just like, I just want to work with Harrison Ford. They really, but they need, like, Crystal Skull should have been a passing the torch movie, but it wasn't good enough to be, so maybe they will be smart enough to have the next Indiana Jones movie just have the exact same formula as Last Crusade, except Ford is in the Sean Connery role, and they can actually pass the torch properly. That would
and get Tom Holland in there. He looks like he could be a young guy.
Get Tom Holland in there.
Well, either get someone, because Tom Holland's like 20, like he's pretty damn young. Get like someone really young, or go what's his face, the guy from Star-Lord.
Oh, Chris Pratt.
Yeah, like I can perfectly see him being a new Indiana Jones person.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways, Uncharted. I mean, it's gonna be something announced in Hall H when San Diego Comic-Con's going on. Probably something small. We'll see what it is. Fucking San Diego Comic-Con. Otherwise known as Hell on Earth. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of there.
Okay, so Nintendo.
And I don't mean Hell on Earth because I don't care about comics. I mean because why would you have a gigantic con in the middle of the summer in San Diego when it's 5 quadrillion degrees?
Yeah, at least it's not in Florida.
I guess.
Yeah, in the middle of the summer. So switching back to Nintendo briefly. We had a real interesting report on Nintendo from July 9th. This is an article from Gamasutra. Ideally, Nintendo wants 20 to 30 new indie titles to hit the Switch per week.
Yeah, oh gosh, talk about lofty goals.
Jeez.
I wouldn't say lofty goals because this could happen.
Yeah, so we have a quote. Rather, I think these indie games are what really invigorate Nintendo Switch overall. This is Nintendo executive Shinya Takahashi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's talking to investors in a recent Q&A, and he's saying, oh, there's more quotes in here. Hooray. Is this a quote from him? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're just going to read it, find out.
Sure.
Offering enjoyable first-party games throughout the world will continue to be one of our strengths, but increasing the number of people who make games to be played on Nintendo platforms is also very important for growing our business. This is why we are working to create an environment that makes development easier and simplifying the process of publishing games on Nintendo Switch. This has resulted in a large number of people playing an array of indie games on Nintendo Switch. So okay, when Switch launched, we talked about how, it supports Unity, it's a real great indie machine. So far, it has been, for the most part. But this is not a goal they should set, because this is a bad idea, because look at Steam.
Yeah, Steam, or the iPhone market.
Yeah, these are people who have basically said, we want to capitalize on indie games, we're going to just open the floodgates and let as many in as possible. And then they gloss over any kind of curation, and then their markets are just full of trash. Their storefronts are just full of horrible trash.
It gets to the point where, I don't think for everyone, but I think for a lot of people, and I would guess that this is more prevalent on the Switch than it is on Steam, is that you get the trash barrel gets full and no one's taken out the trash, so you just keep on throwing stuff on it and it just hits the floor, and then you get to the point where no one wants to take out the trash because the whole room's become trash. So you have people that would probably play games, buy games and like really boost them up, but they look at this endless wall of garbage and they don't even want to bother. They don't even want to deal with it. No. So they don't find those cool games that they might find had there been like half as many titles. Now, I there's a lot of differing opinions on this. I think that curation would be great, and especially for Nintendo Switch, I think it's the right thing to do. But I also, because I'm an anarchist, I love the idea of the Wild West market of Steam, where just let all the garbage in, just like a wave of garbage, just take me over, because you get funny, horrible things that are worth making fun of, and then you do get interesting things if you're willing to dig through the garbage. But yeah, I think for Switch this is not the correct way to go.
Well,
because
oh no, continue.
I was just going to say, well, it's interesting. One of the quotes says, some of the indie games already released have gone on to become million sellers worldwide. In the future, we're looking to release around 20 to 30 indie games on Nintendo Switch per week. And we expect to see some great games among them. There will be great games among them. And this is, since the Nintendo Switch has come out, you hear this from indie devs all the time, where it's like, yeah, we sold okay on Steam, we sold okay on the PSN, but we've sold like 5 times more than anything combined when we went to the Switch. And you hear that story over and over and over again. But I think that looking at that and thinking that that's going to happen for every game that you put on there, every 30 titles per week that you put on there, it's going to diminish. Like, you're going to have diminishing returns very quickly, I think. And you're not going to find these things that do super, super well all the time like you do now.
Now, one of the things I want to point out is if we're comparing a comparison from the iPhone market to the Steam market is actually not fair at all, because we give Steam a lot of junk, or I give Steam a lot of junk, but Steam has implemented a lot of curation tools for users to use rather than for them to do it. But whereas the iPhone or iOS market doesn't really have anything. And as someone who uses the Nintendo eShop on the Switch to buy their games, there's no curation tools on there at all. You can search by game category. That's it. So if they start loading this up with garbage indie titles, it'll just be impossible to find stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be horrible.
Because the infrastructure is not there to search for stuff.
Now, maybe Nintendo will be like, hey, let's build all sorts of infrastructure to match with all these indies that we have coming in. But
I'm shaking my head over here. That is not going to happen.
The Nintendo has never been good about stuff like that. There's no way they do that. So
they do not understand what the internet or online is still.
No. So I'm just thinking, like, oh gosh, I really, really hope they don't do this, because it's going to just be a trash fire. It's going to be awful.
Because there's a lot of games.
There's already indies that come out on the Switch that are basically like, they're not bad in the way that indies can be bad on Steam. Like, they're not broken. They're not missing their executable files. But there are games that come out on that are just like, oh, this is not a good game at all. I really wish this wasn't on here, because I just have to skip. It's just something I have to skip past to get to something that's good.
And I'd like to know too. I'd like the market data on how often people how often people find games through the digital marketplace, or how much that they hear about it somewhere else and then go to buy it and don't pay attention to the stuff around it.
Yeah.
Because, like, at least that's the way it is for me. Like, I very rarely hit Steam and I'm like, let's go searching for what's big. I look at, like, what's the top trending and the top 10, like, best-selling things at the moment, and they're mostly predictable, although there's sometimes not predictable things, like Battlegrounds or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, most of the time, it's like, oh, I follow this person, or I follow this company, or I listen to this podcast, and they're like, yeah, check out this game, and then I go to the marketplace and get it. I wonder how much that is for Switch. But yeah, 20 to 30 games a week. Our games coming out section will get a lot longer, that's for sure.
Jeez, yeah. God. So, let's move on to China and Tencent and PUBG.
Versus.
Yeah, geez. We've got a story from Bloomberg. Goodness. And this is... Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Is this an old story? Dun, dun, dun.
January 15th, yeah.
Oh, no.
Quite old.
No, but there was a story about this in the news this week, and of course, I brought up the wrong one. Let's move on to one of your stories. No, we don't have any of your stories left, so can't do that.
We have Overwatch League.
Why don't you
You're
talk?
All discombobulated this time.
We gotta talk about Overwatch League.
Yeah, this is from ESPN's website. Got all kinds of crazy websites here. Overwatch League comes to ESPN, Disney, and ABC. The Overwatch League is coming to the ESPN, Disney, and ABC family of networks. ESPN, Disney, and Blizzard Entertainment announced on Wednesday. The multi-year broadcast deal includes the Overwatch League playoffs, which begin Wednesday night, the Season 1 Grand Finals from Barclays Center in New York this month, and Overwatch League Season 2 next year. In all, professional Overwatch will be broadcast in some fashion on the flagship ESPN networks, ESPN2, Disney XD, which just today I realized is supposed to be like the laughing face and not just Disney, just random letters. ABC and streaming services for the term of the agreement. This is pretty big, I think. I'm never going to use it, but I'm sure that a lot of people are very excited that they can turn on ESPN and get highlights from their favorite Overwatch League teams. Let's see. There was a quote here that I thought was kind of interesting. We are turning the corner here in terms of our interest and engagement in the esports category. ESPN Vice President of Digital Media Programming John Lasker said, "We had an interest and have been watching pretty closely how the first year of the Overwatch League has been progressing, and we're really excited to be a part of this. Clearly, by the way that we are going to be covering it, starting with the playoffs and the finals this year, certainly speaks volumes to our excitement and our enthusiasm overall for esports moving forward," says a man who probably has never played a video game in his life. But I think this is smart on ESPN's part, because they gotta get that esports, gotta get that esports money, gotta get a piece of that pie.
Get that Bitcoin in here, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is I wouldn't say it's too little, but it's definitely too late. ESPN should have jumped on this about 20 years ago. That's probably when they should have incorporated esports into their shit. But they're coming around to it now. You're going to have tons of dads and grandpas complaining about the damn Mario game and commercials in front of their football. And I think everyone that actually cares about the Overwatch League is just going to watch it on Twitch, and not because they don't have cable, because they don't pay for cable.
Yeah, no, I think that's certainly true. Certainly for ESPN, I think the really interesting things about this to me is the addition of Disney XD and ABC.
Yeah.
So if you are a parent who has bought cable for your household and your child who likes video games is watching, they're not going to watch ESPN, but they will watch Disney and they will maybe watch ABC. So I think that they might reach an audience doing that. Also, just the fact that ABC is one of the big three, it's not a cable channel, to have esports on there is like kind of shocking to me.
It's kind of big, yeah.
But
for people that still have cable.
Yeah. So I think they're going to hit some of that market with Disney, and that might work for them maybe. But you are right that most of the people who care about esports are watching them on Twitch, and they don't care about watching stuff on TV because they don't have cable. So
Right.
it's
I also don't know how big Overwatch is. Like, I don't know how big the Overwatch League is. I don't know what kind of numbers they post in terms of watch hours and stuff like that. But it would seem like this is the wrong game if you're trying to get kids. I don't think kids really care about Overwatch. They care about Fortnite and like Minecraft.
yeah.
Like, you should have gotten Let's Players to do like hour-long programming blocks of like Fortnite. And yeah. I think that would have done better. I don't know how many kids that watch Disney XD are going to care about the the Boston Revolution or whatever the sport. No, that's the one for soccer. I don't know. Whoever the you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I think that it's more of a teenager to adult thing. And I think that teenagers and adults, especially ones that are getting their own places now, and like people that are either in college or getting out of college, aren't buying cable. They're getting internet and watching Twitch.
Yeah, I can see that. So it probably won't work out super well for them, but I am always amazed by the sort of the creeping into mainstream that esports has been doing. It should really be surprising because esports makes so much money that they can kind of write their own ticket in terms of how they are, how they interact with these larger companies.
Yeah, especially Blizzard.
Yeah.
Activision Blizzard, because I remember we talked about this a long time ago when the Overwatch League was getting started, and I remember saying, like, if there's anyone that can actually push into the mainstream, it's going to be Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, not because their games are the best or they have the infrastructure. Well, somewhat because they have the infrastructure. It's because they have the most money to throw around. Like, if you want to become big, you have to throw around enough money for this. And I'd be interested to know how much of this is Blizzard paying to get this on ESPN and how much is this ESPN getting the rights to stream this stuff. Because I would hate to see if Blizzard's spending an overwhelming amount of money to get on ESPN, because I think it's a waste of time in the long run. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. More like that's your 10 cents, because now we're going to an article that I was able to pull up. If it loads, here we go, from IGN.
Will it load? Will it blend?
From July 11th, PUBG hacking arrests reach 141 people.
Oh boy.
So, 141 PUBG hackers have now been arrested in China for creating cheat software containing a Trojan virus. EXP.GG, oh god, that's horrible, reports that the total number of hackers arrested has now reached 141, with the arrest of 120 people in January, which is the story that I had brought up via Bloomberg, and a further 15 in April. So these arrests are the results of a cooperative effort between local police and Tencent, the Chinese publisher for the game. So we kind of talked about this in January when it first started happening. This is sort of an update that, like, they're just arresting more people, and I think they're ramping up their arrest efforts because what was it? PUBG is going to come out in China very soon.
Oh, yeah. At the time, that's what it was. I don't know if it has yet.
Yes. I remember seeing that somewhere, but now I can't remember. So they're I don't know.
I remember at the time we were talking about it because, like, they were just not giving many details as to what the arrest process was like. And I was a little concerned about that because we don't know a lot about the jurisprudence of I don't know if that's the right word, but the way that China's handling these arrests and what they're being charged with and how they're being filtered through their legal system. I was like, be real too bad if a guy had to go to a fucking a prison camp in Siberia because he cheated on PUBG. That'd be a little severe, I think.
Yeah, probably a bit severe. So we're gonna. So yeah, it seems like they're ramping up efforts. Their PUBG, I think, is soon to release in China, and that's probably why they. I don't know, man. It's a little worrying, but I think people are quick to forget that China is a a communist dictatorship.
It totally is.
And,
you wouldn't be able to tell it from the amount of money that they make, but
yeah,
sure is.
And they can kind of. This is not like mass arrests are not really a weird thing for that type of government. People always just are like, "Oh, China, they're a modern country. They must be fine." No, like no, they're not. They got some problems.
They got some dictatory kind of stuff going on there occasionally. Yeah, mass arrests.
Xi Jinping, he's president for life.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love that?
Yep.
I believe Trump said something. He's like, "Yeah, that's what we should have," or something. It's like, oh my god.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hopefully they're just being slapped with fines or something like that because I mean, cheating's cheating, and you should get some kind of punishment. But hopefully it's not genital mutilation or something.
Why did you go?
Crazy.
Why did your mind go to
I don't
that?
know.
There's so many other things it could be.
Because my mind is weird.
It could just be like a labor camp. Like, come on,
just a labor camp. Yeah, I know.
Jeez,
I don't know.
Jeez.
My mind's gross. I have a gross mind.
Let's go to something completely different now. Let's just jump away from this.
We'll keep an eye on this story. No, we won't.
So, the Xbox may be getting platform-wide mod support. The highlight of this is Shrek in Halo. So, according to Windows Central, internal documents have leaked from a presentation which talks about a new Xbox community content platform. The platform is said to allow developers to support user-generated content for their games, including defining what can be modded, how this new content can be used in a game, and whether or not it will cost money. So, this is something that we've already seen a little bit on the Xbox and also on the PlayStation with like Bethesda games, specifically Elder Scrolls and Fallout. And it's cool because those games have such vibrant modding communities on PC, so it's nice to see some of that come to consoles, but obviously console makers are very hesitant to do stuff like that because they want to have a little more of a stranglehold over what appears on their system, which is fair. In its own way. Sony got some flack because they were supposed to allow all sorts of mods and then didn't really allow most of them. But Xbox at the time was much better about that. So it kind of makes sense that they're the ones who are leaping further into mod stuff. Also because it's Microsoft, and they understand PCs a little better than probably Sony does because they understand that hardware a little better. So I think this is another example of Microsoft or Xbox just being like, okay, we're not doing as well this console cycle. What are more things we can do that fans will be all about and that will boost our sales? And I think this is a good move.
It is.
We don't know for sure that it's happening, but if it is, I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, like as a PC player, as a lifelong PC guy, I've always modding is just the thing that exists in the world for almost everything. Like you want to completely break your game with all this crazy stuff, go right ahead. It's a PC. You can do whatever you want. So I always thought that the idea, especially like when Bethesda announced this quite a while ago now for their games, their kind of in-system mod acquirement thing. I thought oh, that's a cool step forward. The problem is you'll never have the kind of crazy freedom you need to do really cool stuff on the consoles. Unless they just make the new Xbox, just make it a PC, essentially. You'll always have limits. There'll have to be a vetting process for this kind of stuff, so you can't do crazy shit. Basically, there's people that remake older Elder Scrolls games in newer Elder Scrolls games. It's just it's the Skyrim engine, but we made all of Morrowind in the game. As a mod. And I imagine it'd be really hard to do stuff like that. It also depends on, this puts more work on the developer side, because I'm sure that this is an opt-in thing for developers. It's like, do you want to have mod access in your game? Like, what kind of things can be there? What kind of things can't be there? Although it would probably add an additional revenue stream at the end of the day. So, cool. I like that Xbox under Phil Spencer has just been experimenting and trying things. not stupid, we're going to turn our Xbox into a TV machine things, but like cool, slightly experimental, like gamer things.
Yeah.
And I think because they're a little bit behind, like you said, they're in the position to experiment, and they come out with some cool stuff. So I'm down for them trying.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's get to our last story here. We're running a little bit low on time, but let's talk about this cool BioWare dev guy.
Cool dude. This is from Engadget from Mariella Moon. Great name. Baldur's Gate designer James Olen leaves BioWare after 22 years. So he's not a name that you hear a lot about in BioWare because they, you hear about like the doctors, the two guys that owned it. I forgot their names. And you hear about a bunch of other people. You don't hear him, but this guy's been around for a long time. And he has been a full-time designer, began work on Baldur's Gate 2 back in the 90s, and he's since worked as the lead designer and creative director for like Star Wars The Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, and he's worked on Icewind Dale, and I looked him up earlier. There's a couple other things. Neverwinter Nights, I think he was like the lead designer on Neverwinter Nights and stuff like that. So he has his hand in all the good BioWare games before they kind of started taking a turn for the modern. But he's leaving the industry after 22 years working for the company. In fact, he's taking a break from video games altogether to embark on something smaller and more personal, quote unquote. A publishing company focused on creating Dungeons & Dragons adventures in particular. Olin said the most fun he's ever had in the industry was working on Baldur's Gate back in the late 90s. He said that he's been a D&D fanatic since he was a kid, and that it is time to be part of it again. Excuse me. In his tweets, Olin linked to his new project, which described itself as a publishing venture formed by a small group of passionate veterans from the video game industry. For the first book of this new company, called Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, he's working with fellow Star Wars The Old Republic designer Jesse Sky. Pretty damn cool. That's a bad name. That's a bad name for for an adventure. I mean, I've heard worse, I guess. But it's pretty neat. Nothing much to say about it, but 22 years making some of the best role-playing games in the world, going off to do some D&D content. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's a great way to just retire. Like you've got like this is a guy who's worked in the games industry as project lead, so he's probably got a ton of money, and now he's like, I'll just sit back and do this fun project.
Yeah,
because now
adventure supplements.
Way easier because it involves no coding.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just you just have to. I mean, they're still working it, designing adventures and stuff, but certainly not on the level of lead designing a BioWare game. That is an entirely different beast. So good for him, and we need more good. I think we need more good outside designers in the tabletop space, anyways. In the D&D space, you have like because there's really not tier wise. There's not a lot there. You have like Wizards of the Coast, and then you have like Paizo and like Green Ronin You have like companies like that.
Cobalt Press,
and even their stuff is kind of hit or miss. And then you just have a glut of us, people that make, amateurs that make stuff for like the DMs Guild. So it's cool to see more like actual game design professionals come in and be like, yeah, I'm going to make some stuff. And it'll probably be pretty good because they have a lot of experience.
One thing, I have some of the art on the screen now for the player's guide to Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. And it reminded me, like, oh, he's a video game industry veteran, which means he knows all the video game concept artists and can have them work on his project. Yeah,
this is very true. Like, well, I don't want to dive too much into the D&D talk, but like, the same thing happened with Matt Colville when he made his new company, and he started showing off all like the concept art that they have for their book that's coming out. It's the same thing. It's like, oh right, you're a video game veteran. That means you have access to all the good artists. So that means your shit's gonna look really good. And yeah, I think that's a good synergy. We've been seeing D&D tabletop role playing games, but D&D in particular have been on a renaissance. So it's cool to see them siphon off some of the video game people. There was somewhere in here I thought it was funny. I think it was the last thing. while his departure will surely be a loss for BioWare, it seems fitting that he's leaving the company for a D&D related reason. According to Game Informer, the developers founders Ray Maizuka and Greg Zeshik for the first heard of him because he ran 2 legendary D&D campaigns with lengthy waiting lists. So apparently he's a good DM.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Indeed, yeah.
I wish he had named his thing better, but otherwise, awesome. Also,
it's not the worst name. It's not the best name.
Yeah, it's not. One thing I will say is the graphic design for the title for the book is pretty good.
Yeah,
it's simple but effective, which is, as you and I have talked about many times in the past, not on this podcast, is for some reason so difficult for people to just get some good title graphic design on their D&D products.
I know, it's insane. It's insane how rare it is.
So anyway, we've made it all the way to game releases, everyone.
Mm-hmm. How many Switch games are coming out?
Oh gosh, 20 to 30 indies a week.
20 to 30? That's just gonna have the whole show now. Is just that, right?
Just that. Just this. The whole second half of the show. The show will be expanded to an hour and a half. It's gonna be. So it's July.
It is.
Coming out
the 13th.
This week. Today we have Captain Toad Treasure Tracker coming out for the Nintendo Switch and the 3DS.
People like that game.
Yeah, people are very excited about it. Also, we have, coming out for the Nintendo Switch, Octopath Traveler.
Project Octopath Traveler.
So, I really wish...
divisive things.
I really wish they had changed that name, but I played the demo and it's good.
Yeah?
I mean, it's a JRPG. It's about as JRPG as JRPGs get, with some pixel art thrown in there. So if you don't like JRPGs, you won't like it, but if you do like them, I think it is a very well put together JRPG.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard some surprisingly mixed things. People are either really down on it or really up on it.
Oh.
So interesting. Horrible name, but
yeah, man, it's so bad.
Or best name or worst name. Can't decide yet.
It's terrible. I mean, I was so glad when they put out the demo and they're like, "This is just our working title. We're gonna change it." And then the fact they didn't change it is like the most disappointing thing about the game.
Yeah.
Also, I will say that I think the color palette in that game is not very good. That's the one thing I don't like about it is all the colors are very muted and very sort of like, our color palette is like 4 browns.
Yes, yeah. And everything has that like soft focus to it.
Yeah,
so
and nothing's particularly fun to look at, especially because the pixel art in it, especially during the fights and things, is really well done pixel art, but it's not given a good color range, so it could look so much better than it does. Anyway, that's a weird nitpick, and that's just the demo, so maybe the main game will be more vibrant. I don't know, man.
Talk to Pat Traveler. What are you going to do?
On the 17th, we have more releases for the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, just 30 a week, everybody.
30 a week.
We have Adventure Time, Pirates of the Enchiridion for the Nintendo Switch, the Windows PC, the PS4, and the Xbox One. Also on the 17th, we have Sonic Mania Plus for the Nintendo Switch, the PS4, and the Xbox One. And then we have something I can't pronounce.
Tohu Gensu Wanderer Reloaded.
There you go, for the Nintendo Switch and the PS4. Once we get to
the roguelike, apparently.
Okay, sure. Once we get to the 19th, we have Closed Nightmare for the Nintendo Switch and the PS4, a survival horror game. No surprise with that title. Sure. And then, let's see, the 24th, I think we'll be getting to our next episode, but we have the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, which is coming out for everything, which a lot of people... I
am interested in that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people are very excited for it. I think, what did they do? They split it into 2 purchases, though. I think that's what people were upset about.
No, it sucks.
So, but otherwise, looks pretty good.
I've heard as a collection, the original one was really good, but I've always just been more about X than classic person when it comes to
Yeah. There was actually a game... Oh, what was it called? 20XX? It was something 20XX that came out very recently that people are saying is like a really fantastic Mega Man successor, and that's up right now on multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch.
I mean, hell, we're getting a new Mega Man, like a fully fledged Mega Man game.
Yeah. Also on the 24th, we have No Man's Sky coming out for the Xbox. Okay.
See how that does.
And then we have something I'm very excited about, the Banner Saga number 3, the grand conclusion of the Banner Saga series, coming out for everything, including Mac.
Yeah,
Cool.
good for them. That started as a game made by two people in a barn, literally.
Of course.
But yeah, they're doing good.
All right, so that's everything. That's it for us. This has been Don't Copy That Floppy, video game news podcast. You just probably watched us on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast, or you listened, rather, on either of our archive places. One of them is chipbit.net, our lovely benefactors. Go there, check out our archive, check out the other shows on there, check out their streaming Chipbit channel. It's real good. The other place we are on archive is iTunes. If you're on iTunes and you're listening to us, hey, give us a rating and review. We'd appreciate it. That'd be nice. Thank you. We also have a Patreon. So if you have a whole lot of money left over every month, you just don't know what to do with it, give it to us. And then, I don't know, I can buy groceries with it.
We can buy 20 to 30 indie games a week.
Yeah. That'll be good. So, otherwise, I think that's pretty much everything to mention. Those are the main things, anyway. Thank you so much for listening. Oh, and also, thanks to our patrons on Patreon that do give us money month to month. You really help this show happen. So, without further ado, Chris, what do people have to remember?
Don't copy that floppy!